she still pursuing entertainment industry fantasies like some adolescent? Father, who had remained silently consuming his second wine glass, eventually voiced his opinion. Your sibling makes valid points, darling. Marcus possesses 3 estates currently. Jennifer's legal firm prospers, and they're discussing beginning a family. Perhaps it's time considering something more secure. I moved the berry sauce across my dish the same manner I'd been deflecting their disapproval for the previous 5 years. They possess no understanding of my actual work. Never attempted asking appropriate questions. Never examined beyond the surface of my intentionally humble lifestyle. I maintain steady earnings, I stated softly, avoiding eye contact with my meal. From what source? Jennifer chuckled, her perfectly restored teeth shining. YouTube advertising income. Do you realize how pitiful that sounds to genuine professionals? The reality was, I'd remained extremely cautious about preserving this pretense. While they observed a struggling artist inhabiting a simple one-bedroom residence, operating a 7-year-old Honda vehicle, and purchasing clothing from discount stores, the actual situation differed dramatically. Phoenix Entertainment had represented my life's passion for the previous 8 years, developed from nothing into what industry experts recognized as the most groundbreaking content production enterprise in entertainment. Yet I'd discovered early that family relationships were complex. When I'd begun earning substantial money 3 years prior, I'd made the tactical choice to continue living identically. Same residence, same vehicle, same clothing. I'd witnessed too many families destroyed by unexpected prosperity, observed too many relationships corrupted by jealousy and demands. You know my thoughts? Marcus was becoming increasingly agitated, his voice escalating with each statement. I believe you're terrified of genuine responsibility. You've constructed this imaginary realm where you can pretend indefinitely, where you never must mature and confront reality like everyone else. Marcus, mother cautioned, but he was gaining momentum. No, I'm serious. Observe her. He indicated me with his utensil. 32 years old, no spouse, no children, no legitimate profession, existing like she's still attending university. It's honestly pathetic currently. Jennifer contributed with her attorney tone, the one she likely employed in legal proceedings. We're not attempting cruelty, Alexandra. We care for you, but caring means speaking truth, even when it's difficult hearing. The truth is, father added, placing his wine glass down with excessive force. We've been facilitating this conduct too long. Maybe it's time for some direct honesty. I experienced the familiar tension developing in my abdomen. The identical sensation I'd endured every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and family gathering for the past several years. The presumption that because I chose modest living, I must be struggling. The constant recommendations about legitimate employment and maturation. The barely hidden disappointment in their voices when discussing me with their acquaintances. What precisely are you proposing? I asked, finally looking up to meet father's gaze. We think you should return home temporarily, mother said gently. Just until you recover stability. You could utilize the guest bedroom, assist with household tasks. Maybe take time determining what you genuinely want pursuing. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. It would benefit you. Structure, responsibility, family assistance, and honestly, you'd conserve rental money, which you clearly require. The irony was so dense I could slice it with the carving blade. Here they were offering me the guest bedroom in their suburban colonial, while I owned a production facility in Burbank larger than their entire district. My small films had generated more income in the recent quarter than Marcus would observe in his complete real estate profession. I appreciate the suggestion, I said carefully. But I'm performing better than you believe. Alexandra, Jennifer's voice held that practiced tolerance of someone addressing a difficult child. Denial won't assist anyone here. We've all observed your residence. We understand what you operate. We know you purchase at discount retailers and survive on instant noodles. If only they knew that the struggling performer appearance was completely deliberate. The residence was modest by preference, not requirement. The Honda vehicle was dependable and attracted no attention. The discount clothing was comfortable and practical. Meanwhile, Phoenix Entertainment employed 847 individuals across 4 states and maintained exclusive distribution agreements with every major streaming service globally. Maybe we should discuss something different, I suggested, hoping to redirect the conversation before it became even more uncomfortable. But Marcus wasn't finished. No, we shouldn't discuss something different. This is precisely the issue. Every time we attempt having a serious conversation about your future, you change topics or make excuses. He leaned forward, his face flushed with wine and self-righteousness. You want knowing what I genuinely think? I think you're frightened. Frightened of commitment. Frightened of responsibility. Frightened of actually attempting and potentially failing at something genuine. Genuine? I repeated, tasting the word like it was sour. Yes, genuine. Like owning property, like building equity, like having a profession that people can understand and respect, like contributing to society instead of just whatever you do daily. The dining area had become completely quiet, except for the grandfather timepiece ticking in the corner and the distant sound of football on the television in the living area. Mother was staring at her hands, clearly uncomfortable with how aggressive the conversation had become. Father was refilling his wine glass, avoiding eye contact with everyone. I know this is difficult hearing, Marcus continued, his voice softening slightly, but losing none of its condescension. But someone must say it. You're wasting your life, Alexandra. You're wasting your potential. You're wasting your intelligence. And honestly, you're wasting our time with these fantasy stories about being some kind of successful filmmaker. That's when the sound from the living area changed. The football commentary faded, replaced by the familiar streaming logo chime and the urgent music that preceded breaking news announcements. We interrupt this program for a special entertainment industry announcement. The announcer's voice carried clearly into the dining area. Jennifer rolled her eyes. Can someone lower that? We're trying to have a family conversation here. But something made me pay attention. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was intuition. Or maybe it was just the desperate hope that something, anything, would break the tension that was crushing me from all sides. In a landmark deal that's sending shockwaves through entertainment, the voice continued. Marcus was still talking, something about career counseling and reality checks, but his words were becoming background noise as I focused on the television. Phoenix Entertainment, the innovative production company behind some of the most critically acclaimed and commercially successful original content of the past 5 years, has signed an exclusive 8-year distribution deal worth an unprecedented $3.8 billion. The dining area went dead silent. Even Marcus stopped mid-sentence, his mouth hanging slightly open. The deal, negotiated over the past 18 months in complete secrecy, represents streaming platforms' commitment to premium original programming and positions Phoenix Entertainment as the streaming service's primary content partner through 2032. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs, but I kept my face carefully neutral. This was the moment I'd been preparing for, the culmination of 2 years of incredibly delicate negotiations. My legal team had worked around the clock to ensure every detail was perfect, every contingency planned for. Phoenix Entertainment CEO Alexandra Winters, who founded the company 8 years ago at the age of 24, will retain full creative control while gaining access to streaming platforms' global distribution network, spanning 190 countries. The silence in the dining area was so complete that I could hear the heater clicking on in the basement. 4 pairs of eyes were staring at me, but I didn't look back. I kept my attention on my plate, slowly cutting another piece of din. As if nothing unusual was happening. Industry analysts are calling this the deal of the decade, with some predicting that Phoenix Entertainment valuation could reach $6 billion within the next 3 years. The agreement includes provisions for theatrical releases, international co-productions, and innovative interactive content that could revolutionize how audiences consume entertainment. Marcus's face had gone completely white. His fork was suspended halfway between his plate and his mouth, a piece of stuffing balanced precariously on the tines. Winters, who has been notoriously private about her company's operations, released a brief statement saying she's thrilled to partner with streaming service in bringing groundbreaking stories to audiences worldwide. The announcement has already sent streaming stock up 12% in after-hours trading. Mother's hand was pressed against her chest, her breathing shallow and rapid. Father had set down his wine glass so abruptly that red liquid sloshed onto the white tablecloth, but he didn't seem to notice. The Phoenix Entertainment deal represents a new paradigm in content creation, with industry insiders suggesting that other streaming platforms may need to reconsider their acquisition strategies to remain competitive. We'll have more analysis on this developing story throughout the evening. The program returned to regular football coverage, but nobody in the dining area moved. The only sound was the grandfather clock continuing its relentless ticking, marking seconds that felt like hours. Finally, Jennifer broke the silence with a whisper that was barely audible. Alexandra. I looked up from my plate, meeting her confused gaze with what I hoped was a calm expression. Yes? The woman on television, she stammered. She said Alexandra Winters. That's your name. It is indeed, I confirmed, taking a sip of water. Marcus found his voice, though it came out as more of a croak. That can't be. You're not. I'm not what? I asked gently. You're not a CEO, he said, the words tumbling out in a rush. You live in a tiny residence. You drive a Honda vehicle. You buy your clothes at discount stores. You can't be worth billions of dollars. I set down my water glass and finally looked directly at him. Why can't I be? Because, he gestured wildly around the dining area. Because if you were really worth that much money, you wouldn't live the way you do. You wouldn't dress the way you do. You wouldn't drive that car or live in that residence or what? Act humble? Live modestly? Choose comfort over status symbols? Father leaned forward, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning realization. Alexandra, are you telling us that you're actually the CEO of this Phoenix Entertainment? I am. And it's really worth billions of dollars? As of this afternoon, streaming service valued us at $3.8 billion for the exclusive rights deal. Our total company valuation, including our production facilities, intellectual property portfolio, and development pipeline, is closer to $5.2 billion. The numbers hung in the air like smoke, incomprehensible and overwhelming. I watched my family struggle to process information that completely contradicted everything they thought they knew about me. But how? Mother whispered. When? How did we not know? Because I didn't want you to know, I said simply. I've seen what sudden wealth does to families. I've seen how money changes relationships, creates expectations, breeds resentment. So I made a conscious choice to keep living exactly the same way I always had. Marcus was shaking his head slowly, like someone trying to wake up from a dream. This doesn't make sense. If you're really that successful, why didn't you tell us? Why let us think? Think what? That I was a failure? That I needed your help? That I should be ashamed of my choices? We didn't mean. Jennifer started, but I held up a hand. Actually, you did mean it. Every single word. Every criticism. Every suggestion. Every disappointed look and condescending comment. You meant all of it because you believed it was true. I stood up from the table, my napkin falling to the floor. The question is, what does it mean that you were wrong? The dining area felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in around us. The family portrait above the sideboard seemed to be watching the scene unfold. For faces frozen in time, back when things were simpler. Back when we all knew our roles and stayed in our lanes. I need to make a phone call, I said, pulling out my smartphone. My investors are probably having heart attacks right about now. As if on cue, the phone started buzzing with incoming calls and text messages. The screen lit up with names that would be instantly recognizable to anyone in the entertainment industry. Agents, producers, directors, studio executives, all wanting to know about the streaming deal that would reshape entertainment's power structure overnight. Alexandra, wait. Father's voice stopped me at the doorway. I don't understand. If you're really that successful, why do you still live like? Like what, father? Like someone who values substance over appearance? Like someone who'd rather invest in her business than impress people with expensive toys? I turned back to face the table where my family sat frozen in their elegant dining area with their expensive porcelain and their comfortable assumptions about success and failure. You want to know the truth? Phoenix Entertainment started in that tiny residence you're all so embarrassed by. Every script, every deal, every creative decision that built this company happened in that space you think is beneath me. The Honda vehicle has driven me to meetings with some of the most powerful people in entertainment. The discount clothes have been in boardrooms where billion-dollar decisions were made. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from my head of publicity. The streaming announcement was just the beginning. By tomorrow morning, every entertainment trade publication in the world would be running the story. But more importantly, I continued, I've been happy. Genuinely, authentically happy with my life and my choices. Can you say the same? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus's successful real estate career suddenly seemed less impressive when measured against my $3.8 billion deal. Jennifer's thriving law practice felt smaller in comparison to a company that employed nearly 1,000 people. Even mother and father's comfortable retirement looked different when viewed through the lens of my actual success. We had no idea. Mother said finally, her voice barely audible. No, you didn't. Because you never asked the right questions. You saw the surface and assumed you knew everything. You saw modest choices and interpreted them as failure. You saw contentment and mistook it for lack of ambition. I walked back to the table and placed both hands on the back of my chair. Do you want to know what Phoenix Entertainment actually does? We tell stories about people who are underestimated, overlooked, dismissed by those who should know better. We create content about individuals who find success on their own terms, who build something meaningful without needing external validation. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. I'd been living the exact story that Phoenix Entertainment had been telling for 8 years, and my own family had cast themselves as the antagonists without even realizing it. The streaming deal isn't just about money, I explained. It's about having the resources and platform to tell those stories on a global scale, to show audiences around the world that success doesn't always look the way people expect it to. My phone rang again, and this time I answered it. This is Alexandra. Alex. The voice belonged to David Chan, my head of international distribution. Holy, the streaming announcement just went live. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. We've got calls from competitors, technology companies, media conglomerates. Everyone wants to know if we're taking on additional projects. That's the plan, I said, very aware that my family was hanging on every word. This deal gives us the stability to be more selective, more creative. We can finally make the projects we've always dreamed about. The trade publications are going crazy. Industry Magazine wants an exclusive interview. Entertainment Reporter is planning a cover story. And someone from news program called about a segment on the changing landscape of content creation. Schedule everything through Maria, I said, referring to my assistant, and make sure our legal team is prepared for the contract discussions that are going to start tomorrow. Already on it. Also, congratulations, Alex. 8 years of building this company, and now the whole world gets to see what we've accomplished. I ended the call and looked back at my family, who were staring at me with expressions ranging from awe to confusion to something that might have been embarrassment. That was my head of international distribution, I explained. Phoenix Entertainment doesn't just create content for American markets. We have projects in development across 6 continents, partnerships with production companies in 12 countries, and distribution deals that reach nearly 2 billion people. Marcus had found his voice again, though it sounded different now. Smaller somehow. I don't understand how we didn't know. How did you hide something this big? I didn't hide it. I just didn't advertise it. There's a difference. But your residence, your car, are exactly what I need them to be. The residence is 10 minutes from my production facility in Burbank. The car is reliable and gets excellent gas mileage. The clothes are comfortable and professional. None of those choices were made out of necessity. They were made out of preference. I sat back down at the table, suddenly feeling exhausted. The adrenaline of the streaming announcement was wearing off, replaced by the complex emotions of watching my family recalibrate their entire understanding of who I was. I need you all to understand something, I said slowly. This isn't about proving you wrong or making you feel bad about your assumptions. This is about the fact that you never really saw me at all. Mother's eyes were filling with tears. Honey, we love you. We've always loved you. I know you love the idea of me. But you've spent years trying to change me into someone different, someone who fit your definition of success. You never considered that maybe I was already successful, just not in ways you recognized. The grandfather clock chimed 8 o'clock, its deep bronze tones echoing through the dining area. Outside, it was fully dark now, and the neighbors' houses glowed with warm yellow light. Families were finishing their own Thanksgiving dinners, probably having their own complicated conversations about success and failure, about expectations and reality. What happens now? Father asked quietly. Now I go back to my life, I said. Phoenix Entertainment has a $3.8 billion deal to execute, which means the next 18 months are going to be incredibly intense. We're going to be creating more content than we've ever produced, working with bigger budgets and higher stakes than we've ever experienced. Could we visit your studio sometime? Jennifer asked hesitantly. I studied her face, looking for signs of genuine interest versus simple curiosity about my newfound wealth and status. Why do you want to visit? Because I realize I don't know anything about what you actually do. And I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry we made assumptions. It was a start. Not a complete transformation, not an instant healing of years of dismissal and condescension, but a beginning. The studio runs tours for industry professionals and investors, I said. I could arrange something if you're genuinely interested in understanding the business. Marcus leaned forward. Would it be possible to? Could we see some of the projects you're working on? The things that will be on streaming service? Some of them. The projects that aren't under strict confidentiality agreements. My phone buzzed with another text message, this one from my business manager. The streaming announcement had triggered a series of financial reviews and portfolio adjustments that would need my attention over the next few days. Success at this level wasn't just about creative fulfillment. It was about managing complex business relationships and massive financial responsibilities. I should probably head home, I said, standing up again. Tomorrow is going to be chaotic, and I need to prepare for a lot of very important conversations. Of course, Mother said quickly. But Alexandra, could we try to do better? As a family? Could we start over? Maybe get to know who you really are. I looked around the table at the 4 people who had raised me, supported me, and simultaneously underestimated me for the better part of a decade. They weren't evil people. They were just people who had made assumptions and stuck to them long past the point where those assumptions made sense. I'd like that, I said honestly. But it has to be real. No more interventions about my life choices. No more suggestions about what I should be doing differently. No more treating me like someone who needs to be fixed or saved. Deal, Father said immediately. And no sudden expectations about money or lifestyle changes. I'm still going to Live in my residence, drive my Honda, and shop at discount stores. Success didn't change who I am. It just gave me more resources to be myself. We understand, Marcus said, though I wasn't entirely sure he did yet. I walked around the table, hugging each of them. Goodbye. The embraces felt different now, charged with new understanding and the promise of more honest relationships going forward. As I drove home in my 7-year-old Honda vehicle, my phone continued buzzing with calls and messages from the entertainment industry elite. The streaming deal would officially transform Phoenix Entertainment from a well-respected production company into a major entertainment power player. But more importantly, it would give me the platform to tell the stories I'd always believed needed telling. Stories about people who succeed quietly, who build empires in residences and boardrooms alike, who choose substance over spectacle and authenticity over appearance. Stories about families who learn to see each other clearly. Perhaps for the first time. I pulled into the parking lot of my modest residence complex, the same building where Phoenix Entertainment had been born 8 years ago in a spare bedroom that doubled as an office. Tomorrow, the entertainment world would be calling me an overnight sensation, a sudden success story, a fairy tale narrative of dreams coming true. But I knew the truth. This hadn't been overnight or sudden or magical. It had been 8 years of deliberate choices, careful planning, and the courage to define success on my own terms. Even when the people who loved me most couldn't see the value in what I was building. The streaming deal was just the beginning. Phoenix Entertainment was about to enter a new phase of growth and influence, with the resources to tell bigger stories and reach wider audiences than ever before. But at its core, the company would remain exactly what it had always been, a place where underestimated people could tell their stories and be seen, finally, for who they really were. As I climbed the stairs to my residence, I thought about next Thanksgiving dinner. It would probably be different this time, with new dynamics and deeper conversations. Maybe we'd even have it at my place for once, in the modest residence where billion-dollar deals were born and authentic success was quietly built, one story at a time.